This is our 500cc fuel injected 2-stroke. In this video I'm going to show you how we built it, and we are going to try and fire the beast into life for the very first time. But can we get it running? This episode will have the answer. Welcome to Project Com. So far in the series, you've seen us tear apart our donor bike and get the 300cc Husqvarna motor ready to take to our resident 2-stroke expert, Roland Shaw of Hardcore Racing. So now it's time for the real work to begin.
There he is.
I was at the airport surrounded by people yesterday and opened up my WhatsApps.
Yes. Always volume down.
Quite obviously, guys, I'm not in the workshop tonight with Roland and Phil. I'm here in a hotel room in Poland because I've come over to see our awesome sponsors, 24MX. So I'm going to let Roland go through everything tonight. He's going to show us the way through this conversion, turning our Husqvarna TE300 into a 500cc monster. So take it away, boys.
Yep. Catch you later. The engine's out the frame, it's on the bench. First job is to get all of the ignition side cover off, all the whatever's going on in there to do with the ignition and so forth. Get the reed valve off, cylinder off, and then it's into the clutch casing, strip all that out, and then we're going to split the crankcases and start to build up an awesome 500.
Roland was ready and raring to go, making a quick start to the splitting of the motor, but he still found some time to give Phil a bit of grief for his cleaning abilities.
Normally I'd tell you to take your engine away and come back with it clean.
Yeah, I know that as well. How much are you missing Max's help from the last build?
No comment. I can't put it into words. In fact, just saying it's making me feel emotional.
So, even without my watchful eye and mechanical know-how, Roland was making quick progress.
So now, just release all these bolts here. Fortunately with the KTM, they do have a split bearing in this side, so it's got cylinder rollers on there with a central boss that will stay on the crankshaft. So it's really easy just to take the bolts out and tap the cases, and she'll come apart nicely. There's no pulling anything off any crankshafts and whatever. So yeah, we're pretty much done now as far as the strip out's concerned. Yeah, there's no horrible wear on any of the dogs anywhere. All good. So gearbox is good to go.
It's now time to open up the packages and see what BRC have actually sent us.
As with the Yamaha conversion that we did before, we've got a Honda CR500 piston. We've got a V-Force for a KTM Enduro bike. Nice set of crankcases, a bit like we found with the 500 Yamaha. Everything matches and is as it should be. It's well engineered, let's put it that way. So I like to see that. That means something to me. It tells me something about the guys who actually designed it, the company that's built it and manufactured it. It's been important to them, not just to shove a load of stuff out the door and grab some money. They've actually bothered about doing the job right, and it really feels like they do the job right at BRC. That's something we've debated, wouldn't it, as to whether or not the counterbalance shaft. It would be odd if you, like you say, that they use the standard one.
So we're good.
Yeah, we're all good. Got a nice new counterbalance shaft. I was really impressed with the crankshaft that they had, that they put into the Yamaha. So I'm expecting this to be nice as well. We've got a cylinder. Here we go. And there we go. So there's the cylinder, including diaphragm, decompressor. I say BRC's been making these for a while, so they've got it properly dialed in now. So let's get it put back together. As this engine's come from BRC, apart from the fact they've been kind to us, even though for most people, I think if you engage yourself in this, I would say that most people, including myself, it's a project. It's going to be a passion thing to own and to build one of these. I don't think that it's a sort of, yeah, people are going to buy them second hand as a complete built bike, but for me to buy the kit, put all your bearings in, spend a load of evenings in your garage having a nice cup of coffee and a few biscuits, building this engine up, putting all your bearings in and everything else is what you want to be doing. Because I do it all day long as a job, it's not quite the same. As much as I'm enjoying working on this BRC engine, it's not the same for me. And nicely for them, they put all the bearings in place for me, so all I've really got to do now is take these cases apart. So I'm just going to take them apart, build the gearbox in, put the crankshaft in, make sure everything's all good and tickety-boo, which it will be, and then put the cases back together. So this first part of the build for me is a lot easier than if you buy the kit, which again, it's not hard, you're just putting some bearings in the cases, but for me it's going to be a lot quicker process than if you were to buy the kit, because you're going to get the kit with all the bearings and you're going to put it together, which is, you know, if it's not your day job, it's good fun.
Now the real work can begin. We are about to watch a 300cc motor transform into a 500cc beast before our very eyes.
Yeah, so I've got a little message in the box here, because as you'll see from here, there's a couple of bearing retainers here, a couple of keepers in the casing here required, which you so once you split these cases from BRC, there's a little message in there saying to use the keepers from the original cases, and it's all machined out nicely to receive them. So I've just had to put these old cases back on here so that I can get the keepers out and then use them in the new cases, hold the bearings in place. So I'm just installing I've put the two main gear shafts in, just putting the selector drum in now. Really quite straightforward in this. There's a little bit more room, and it's a more modern design than the YZ gearbox. Is very robust, there's nothing wrong with it, it just is not so straightforward to fit as one of these are. It just takes it's a little bit more tricky, whereas these are nice and straightforward. So this is going to take moments and this will be in, so it'll be all good. Just feed this input shaft one in. That's the gearbox all installed, all spinning nicely. Moving on, pop the crank in, use the centre gasket, put it together, all good. You don't have to get these bearings very hot, just enough. If it gets to the point where just a little bit uncomfortable on your finger when you put it on the bearing face, that should be enough that it's expanded. That's warm enough. As I say, just uncomfortable to touch, it's hot enough. There we go. So, gearbox is in, crankshaft's in.
I've said it before and I'm sure I'll say it again. I am so thankful that we've got Roland in our corner for these builds. He makes it all look so effortless and easy.
Just get it somewhere near, which you can do with a KTM, because you've got the split bearing. Obviously with the Yamaha and so forth, it's not so straightforward, because normally you want to warm up the bearing, drop the case on, boom, it's a one go, one chance. With these there's no heat involved. So to make sure the gasket and everything's all lined up, you just drop your bolts in, everything goes through the gaskets nicely. And again, it's just, for me, one of those things that makes an old man smile. Yep, perfect. So we've had a couple of cups of coffee, a few biscuits, having a bit of a chat, talking about this and other things. So far, from the moment we had a box from BRC, we had a Husqvarna engine, still in one bit, with everything from the clutch servo, everything all on there, cylinder, everything all on, so that's all been taken apart. We've basically got everything that we needed out of that, and we're at a point now where these crankcases, I'm just torquing the bolts up. As is standard on a 6mm thread going into aluminium, you're looking at 10 Newton meters. It is nice just to give a bit of a random pattern as you build it up, but normally on a face-to-face like this with a decent gasket, you're only putting 10 Newton meters. It's not like torquing a cylinder head down. You know, it is nice to just feel that you are giving it a spread in the way that you're tightening down, but it's not as critical as would be following some kind of bolt pattern. But just spread it about. But no, it's coming together lovely.
Thanks to Roland's knowledge and expertise, the build was progressing somewhat speedily. And that's despite the fact that he's never actually worked on one of these motors before.
we've got a counterbalance shaft, and obviously the counterbalance has to be in the correct location in relation to the mass of the crankshaft. So what they've done here is you've got a timing mark, top dead centre. You can see the crankshaft's top dead centre, but the main thing is we're on the keyway here. The keyway was a little bit of a, it's taken me a few more minutes than perhaps it should have done, but anyway, no major engineering feat required to get it to go on there, but just a little bit more, a little bit tighter tolerance. So anyway, this is keywayed onto here. So this timing mark here on this is keyed and is in the correct position in relation to the weight on the other side on the counterbalance shaft. This is keywayed onto here, and we've got another timing mark on here. So put this one in place, slide that one on, making sure that these timing marks, which do relate to top dead centre, you know, I don't think you could actually get the marks where if you didn't have the crank at top dead centre, they wouldn't match up anyway because the keyway wouldn't allow it. But the main thing is, it's nice to know, it's great that BRC have done it. You can check the timing relationship between the counterbalance shaft and the crankshaft with these two markers here. So put that one on, slide this one on to the keyway, making sure that the line on here matches to the line there. Nice to just give you a couple of reference points either side to make sure that you get it in the right place. So all good with that.
The next step was finishing building up the gearbox and check those gears. Once he was happy, Roland could move on to install the clutch.
So we're now at a point where the clutch is back in, all the nuts are torqued up, everything's all tightened down, kickstart's in place, everything all tallies nicely, we've got gear shift, everything's as you'd like to see it. So that's all done now. All I've got to do now is swap the water pump across from one side to the other. Just getting there really, just having a nice chilled out evening. You know, in one evening we've gone from a 2017 350. By the time we go home tonight, we will not have had a great amount of time. We will not have gone crazy running around like headless chickens. You know, it's just nice and calmly rolling through, having a chat, popping this engine up to being a 500. Really good.
With this cylinder going on, we now have what looks like a finished motor on our hands. But there's still a few more little jobs to do.
Right, so we've check the squish clearance. Because of the factor that the spark plug hole on this particular engine goes in an angle, it's quite tricky to get a solder to the end of the cylinder properly. So ended up taking it off, a little bit of grease, a couple of bits of solder, flipping it over, changing the gaskets and so forth. We've achieved on the solder, now bearing in mind solder has a bit of memory, we've used 2mm solder, so we haven't compressed it by very much, but you always have to just bear in mind there's a little bit of what they call memory, so it will just spring back slightly. We have measurements of between 1.63 and 1.65. We're there with 1.6, really bearing in mind a little bit of memory with a bit of spring back on the solder, and that was achieved on this particular engine with a 0.3 base gasket. So now reassemble using new head with the head O-ring supplied, and yeah, we move on. We fit the ignition, a couple of other little bits, and that's the build done. One of the sort of final jobs to do is to swap the stator away from the original cover and put it into here, into the BRC cover. Everything fits as you'd expect it to. All the holes line up nicely. Little 5mm screws, they need about 8 Newton meters, and you definitely need to be using a medium Loctite with them. So that's all gone on perfect. So I'm going to put all of the rotor on and so forth now, put this stator on. And that's pretty much it.
Roland has worked his magic and the build has gone swimmingly. We now have the heart of our beast ready for the next stage of the process.
So we've now got a 500cc electric start, fuel injected enduro bike, which, you know, with a bit of suspension and so forth will be good on a motocross track as well. I can honestly say that without running around, from having a complete 300 TE engine to having a Mega 500cc engine, has taken a relaxed 5 hours. There's been no part of it that has been challenging. It's been very, very straightforward. Everything's fitted like you'd hope it would do, and yeah, it's been a good little build. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it performs.
Once again, I have to say a massive thank you to Roland Shaw of Hardcore Racing for his help on this project. Now it's time to get the motor back inside our bike. Okay, so it's the big day here in the workshop. The engine has arrived back from Roland, so we're ready to build back up the bike in its 500cc form.
Job number one is get that back into the chassis, and then start plumbing it in. You know, electrics and the plumbing and all the other bits. It's going to be interesting.
Let's do it. Today we're not going to worry about aesthetics or how the bike looks when we're finished. That's a little later down the road. Today it's just about getting the engine in, getting everything fitted, plumbed, get the electric sorted, and see if we can get her started for the first time. That is the main mission today. Obviously this is where the Kong project differs quite a lot to the YZilla project, and that's the electrics on the bike. As you saw in the first episode, there's a lot of wires involved here, so Sean at the moment is painstakingly going through all those wires and connecting them back up, starting with the kind of simple stuff, the obvious stuff, and then working his way through. We'll get there in the end, right?
Let's hope so.
Okay, so we're just going to quickly refill the auto lube bottle here, because as you just saw, we don't really know what was in there, how long it's been in there, and even what that is. So we got some MX9 here. Sean's going to do the honours. MX9 from our awesome sponsors, Pewterline. They've been supporting us on the channel this year, and we couldn't do awesome projects like this without their help. MX9 can be used in auto lubes or in premix. So Pewterline to do products to oil and lubricate your machine, but they've also got a load of products for cleaning your bike, your helmets and things like that. And as you saw in the first episode, Phil behind the camera needs a little bit of help in that department, so I've got a present for him today. So with this stuff, make good use of that. Cheers. Thanks once again to Pewterline for supporting the channel, supporting the project, and helping us do some awesome things this year.
Now just putting the throttle body on the refilled auto lube bottle. It's easier to put it all on one bit, so we don't get no once it's primed, no airlocks in the pipe.
Am I just getting in your way, Sean?
No, not at all. And literally just trimming off a little bit of the plastic carrier, which sits on the bottom of the auto lube bottle, just to give it a bit more space for the fuel pipe. It just seems, because everything's so much bigger, it's really tight for space, so we're just giving it a bit more room, so there's just a little bit more movement, you know, because it obviously when it's running, it's vibrating, you don't want nothing rubbing, don't want nothing, especially a fuel pipe, you don't want nothing cutting through that. So yeah, just giving it a little bit more room, just giving it a little tickle.
We're making good progress. The auto lube system is in, the TPI is hooked up. As you can see, it is quite tight down there, there's not a lot of space. But I did kind of tease this in the first episode, but we will have a future modification in a future episode that will relieve that problem, so stay tuned, because that will be an interesting episode. That is for definite.
So the next stage is all of that, yeah, relocating back where it needs to be, and then carry on bolting bits on, basically.
A very important part of this build is that you can't use the standard ECU, so you have to get the ECU sent off to be flashed, and BRC recommended that we use TSP here in the UK. That's the company that they're partnered with, that they use, so we've done that. This is the flashed ECU returned to us. Sean's about to fit that now.
Because it runs a diaphragm power valve, this system, there's just a quick mod with one of the water pipes that runs over the top of the diaphragm, and we've done a dry fix just so we can get it in exactly the right place so it doesn't affect the diaphragm, so it moves freely. It's a bit fiddly, but if you persevere, you know, you can get it bang on, and that's what we've done. So happy days. So we just made a quick modification because the clutch cover just fouled just ever so slightly onto the swing arm. So we just made a quick modification, made a little bracket up so the return spring for the brake is working again. Perfect.
It's time to fit some plastics to see if everything lines up as it should. Sean assures me that it will, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See how confident he sounded then. We've got some acerbis, or how is it, Sean?
Acerbis.
Acerbis,
Yeah.
if you're Italian.
Yeah.
Such as Sean. We've got some acerbis plastics here to fit to the bike that we've got from our sponsors 24MX. So big thank you to 24MX as always for supporting the channel, supporting our builds. And yeah, if you need any plastics, they've got them for all bikes, all models, pretty much anything you want for a build such as this you can find on 24mx.com. Check out the 24MX website for pretty much all your parts and accessories for your motocross bikes, your enduro bikes, anything. So yeah, big thanks once again to 24MX. Let's fit some plastics. Got the pipe fitted now. This is the system that comes with the BRC kit, so it's an FMF pipe. We will be changing it like we did with the YZilla project to the Hugo system. That's the cone pipe at the front, but we'll keep that FMF on the rear. Next job on the list is, we've got to fix that. This clutch cover here that's really bugging us. The bike's looking quite fresh and clean now, and that's reminding us of the ratty old thing it used to be. So we've got a part here from our friends at Pro Carbon, a local company, so I'm going to get that fitted now. Okay, so you can see Sean's getting the suspension fitted back into the bike now. This is the enduro spec stuff that we started with the Husky TE300. That's what's going to stay in there for the moment, but as you know, we're going to spec this for motocross, so we are going to change that out. But just today, we want to get the bike rolling at the end of this session in the workshop, so we're putting the enduro stuff back in until we got hold of some motocross spec suspension. The next stage, we're going to wheel the bike out and we're going to start it for the very first time. Let's do it. Okay, so this video's been all over the place and Sean's finished the job now, put the bike back together, and it's actually Roland's turn today to be off gallivanting. He's on holiday in Iceland, so it's his turn today to be missing out on the action, not mine. It's the moment of truth. We're going to try and get it started, right, Sean? Yeah. You've got a cold start. You reckon cold start on? You want to chuck that on? I'll put the decompressor in.
Right.
And now,
bit of throttle.
So this is supposed to be easy with this electric start, but ooh, it wants to go now, doesn't it?
Oh, battery's died now.
The battery's gone now.
Yeah, that'll be it. You don't want to run it flat, so you won't charge back up.
Right, so hopefully this is the only time we're going to have to do this. It's the first start, so we're trying to get some fuel through it to get it going. Yeah! We have a living! Breathing! Calm! So there we have it, a living, breathing Kong 500, a BRC 500 with electric start, fuel injection. Obviously we didn't use the electric start just then, we kicked it over, but now that we've got it running, that should be fine to go. Next time you'll see us, we'll be at the track. The bike will look very different. We're gonna get all the trick bits on, get the graphics on. So that is the next stage in the process. We're gonna get to the track. You wanna ride it first, Sean?
Yeah.
So I think it's only right that Sean rides it first as he put so much work into it. So I just want to say big thanks to Sean, to Roland, and to everyone that's helped us build this bike so far. If you've enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. As always, my name is Max. This is 999 Laser. We'll see you at the track.